over here.
No. Hi, everybody. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do more of an interview style format. We wanted to have some serious conversations. We've had a couple martinis. We thought this was important to talk about as we were mid-martini. We were like, this is something that needs to be discussed on the pod. So without further ado, I'm just going to kind of interview Brittany, and I'm not going to give too much input myself because I really want to hear from her. And I think this is an important topic that a lot of people, you have food in your, whatever.
I have dog hair in my mouth.
This is an important topic that we need to talk about, a lot of important topics. So I'm going to start with Brittany. Why are you single?
Because I took out my extensions and I'm bald. That's why I'm single.
But you've been single for how long? How long have you been single?
I mean, I've been like officially single for probably 4.5 years now, I would say.
Okay. And during that time, have you dated at all?
Oh my God. I've dated enough that I want to write a book, which it might come out. Y'all just be on the lookout for that. I've dated a ton. A little bit of like quick history. I was engaged when I was 25. And I called that wedding off because I knew that I was settling and like he wasn't my person. But being from the South, that's, a lot of pressure. And then I got married when I was 30, and I was married for 2.5 years. And it wasn't the best marriage, but I learned a lot. And so I uprooted my life at 34 and moved across the country to California. And I've been kind of single. Kind of off and on.
What's the longest relationship you've been in since your last marriage?
Relationship, like actually a boyfriend.
Yeah.
It was probably like 4 months, but that was on my doing. It wasn't on because they did not want longer. I just was not mentally ready for such a big commitment at that time of my life.
Why do you think, having come off an engagement and a marriage, you're obviously looking for a relationship? Why do you think you weren't mentally ready?
I think at that time of my life, like I just moved to LA and I met a really amazing person that really showed me, to be completely honest, like what a healthy relationship overall is. And it was scary to me. Like I come from such a situation that was kind of toxic and really not healthy, that I mentally was not able to wrap my head around this like person that was treating me the way that I've always wanted to be treated. And it scared me. And I mentally was not able to let my walls down to even give him the version of myself that he deserved. But I knew that, but at the same time, it's like, why not give that a chance? So me and him are still such good friends to this day. Like I have the utmost respect for that man.
What was missing?
Yeah. I think for us, a lot of like physical chemistry was missing. I think also he also needed to grow a little bit in that. Like I've always been a very physical person. I think I put a lot of emphasis on that in relationships. And the older I've gotten, it's not all about sex. And that takes some time to like learn. You have to kind of like weed through all of those fun times. I think intimacy is still very much important, but I don't think it should be the main like precedent in a healthy relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I would say that like I'm pretty physically inclined as well. Like physical touch is something that's important to me, right? I think we both are on the same page about that. Do you think that your notions about physical intimacy and physical touch are derived like... No, it's okay.
Sorry, this is really hard for me.
It's
I'm honest, I'm a little
okay.
nervous.
Do you think that those, and I think that's part of the reason it's important to talk about, because I think that like your experience, both having been in serious relationships and having had these experiences and then being single, is something that's incredibly relatable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants to meet the love of their life at 22 and then, you know what I mean? Like Cinderella away, right? Well, I don't want the Notebook because she was a cheater, but I digress. But we all want to just like kind of figure it out and then that not be quote unquote like something we're worried about for, the next 10 years, whatever, especially with women's biological clocks, children, all of that. But the reality is, like, society is not where it was in the 1950s. We are more independent. We are stronger. We have more rights than we did then. Like women weren't able to get credit cards until I think like 1972 in their own names, right? That wasn't an option for my mom. That's an option we have. And so with that comes like what's the Spider-Man quote? Like with great power comes great responsibility. It's like the more power we're given as women, the more responsibilities we have, the more that's going to impact so many other aspects. And this isn't like a hating men, hating women thing, but it's just like society is not 1950s anymore. And we have to recognize that to some degree.
I saw a really funny meme the other day, and it was like a woman from like the 1950s, and it was like, what you should do throughout the day. And it was like, make sure that you look nice when your husband comes home. Make sure that dinner is on the table. Do not speak too much because what he has to say is more important. And I like sent it to a friend of mine, and I was like, wow. And in a weird way, growing up the way that we grew up, some of it is very relatable and normal because that's how I was raised. Like my mom had dinner on the table every night and worked full time. Now, granted, these women didn't work. So it's funny now because I'm such an independent woman to like look at that and still relate to it, but they kind of like laugh at it and try to understand it. It's weird.
But then also realize that the same way we still relate to it, males' expectations still expect that to some degree, even though they might logically know times have changed, even though the last guy I dated seriously didn't have a job, right? So like, right? So it's like, I'm expected to work the 9 to 5 and clean and cook dinner and do the laundry and walk. What exactly are you doing? Like, like it just things are shifting. So, okay. So going back to kind of your last relationship, the reason I was asking about that more so was to say, when you came to LA, did you come to LA for a fresh start? If you were to say that, or had you wanted to come to LA, or was there some other reason you came to LA?
We're going to lay it all on the table today. I have reconnected with somebody that I dated before I was married.
Okay.
And we kind of had a 6-month situationship, I would say, back and forth.
Before you moved to LA?
Before I moved to LA. I was kind of flying to and from LA and North Carolina. But also one of my best friends had lived here that I had visited.
Sure.
And I did have like a weird feeling the first time I came to LA, and it was like, you know what? Like, step out of your comfort zone, go do this. Like, just try something new. You've always lived in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to be completely honest, I do think having that little sense of security of like a roman or a relationship helped nudge me to LA. But I also probably knew in the back of my mind that it wasn't going to work.
What was the security? What was that security based in?
I think in the sense that I like had known this person for a while and I had a lot of like emotional connection with them, and to reconnect with them and think like, this is our chance. I was romanticizing a situation that was not the reality. And I think that is what a lot of us women do. And it's something that I have really had to like learn about myself. And sometimes romance is beautiful, but it's not the reality of the situation as much as we want it to be. But at the same time, I am so thankful I took that leap of wanting that romance, because moving to LA was one of the best decisions I ever made. And it's been wonderful. If I had moved out here and hopped into a relationship, I would not have had the experiences that I've had.
For sure. No. I wouldn't say that my experience in LA began until I got out of the relationship I moved out here with, right? Like for the 2 years that I was in that relationship, it was like, I could have been in LA, I could have been in Denver, I could have been in New York, I could have been in Boston. It didn't matter, right? I wasn't exploring the city. I wasn't meeting new people, right? You're not doing any of that because you're in, like, as a woman, your focus, even the most independent, whatever woman, your focus is still on making the relationship work. And that is, your drive. And you're not thinking, should I explore the city? Do I like this? You're literally not even thinking, do I like LA? You're thinking, do I like this guy?
Yeah, I literally probably would have been in Brentwood and Culver City and back and forth, and that's it.
Which great places, don't mind either, but
I would not nearly have had the much. I mean, I had so much fun my first year in LA. Like, I really relived my 20s. I dated a ton. I mean, I dated so much. The stories are endless, and I kind of refound myself, which was great. But with that, it still took time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd come from a pretty heartbroken. I don't want to say super. I mean, I'll be honest. It was traumatic in its own way. I wouldn't say it's the most traumatic that people have ever had, but it was hard, and it's still hard sometimes to wrap your head around something like that. When you trust people again.
Think about what you were looking for in a man in your 20s versus what you're looking for now. If you had to try and describe the man you were looking for at 25 versus now, is there overlap? What does that look like? What were you looking for at 25 that you're looking for now, or how does that differ?
I think in my 20s, it was so much more about physical appearance and
appearance, not physical intimacy.
No,
specifically appearance.
You wanted that hot guy. I used to date a lot of surfer bros. I was really into that. I grew up like that, and I was into that that look. And I wouldn't say, I mean, to be honest, in my 30s, I do think physical appearance is still somewhat important, but me personally, I don't want the hottest guy out there. I don't want to date the guy that all the girls are swooning over because I don't want to deal with the shit that you have to mess with other women depending on your man. I would rather have the man that has a great personality, that treats me with respect, that is confident within himself, and that's what makes him attractive to me at this point. Yes, are there some pretty things out there that I get distracted by sometimes? 100%. But I think that's natural, right? You're gonna fall back into what is fun and sexy. But I think you can find that sexiness and fun in such a different way, especially if I'm gonna be in a committed relationship. It's just so different now. My friends, I mean, we talk about this, or my family are I don't understand why you're still single. And it's I'm single by choice. It's not because there's not opportunity. After what I've experienced and the things I've learned about myself, or the things I've learned from being married before, I'm never going to invite that back into my life. And if I see any glimpse of that,
not worth it.
Why even entertain it? Because I know it's going to bring me to a place I don't want to be.
One thing that we were talking about earlier that I think is really important is that the difference for me between my 20s and my 30s is in my 20s, I felt like I needed a man, that there were things that he could provide for me. And maybe it's because I've been career oriented and been independent and been single for so long, and it's not that I needed him, I wouldn't survive without him, but it's in my 20s, a man who was financially able to provide for me was a lot more attractive than it is now, because I'm able to financially provide for myself. In my 20s, when I was in law school and didn't have a full-time job, a man who was stable and had that ability was a lot more attractive than now when I have that ability myself, right? So it's not a need. It's not something that I feel insecure about. It's not something that could fill a gap for me. Would it be nice to have dual incomes? Of course. But I'm not oh, I don't know how I'm going to take myself out for dinner or pay my rent or whatever, right? Simultaneously, when I was in my 20s, I wasn't fully emotionally developed. So having a man who could soothe my emotions or my anxiety was really nice. In my 20s, I hadn't really explored all my sexuality. So having a man who had that experience, there were things that I felt like a man could provide me that I didn't have the experience in, the history in, the time in, whatever, right? In my 30s, none of that's a need. It's all really nice, right? Like really,
Added bonus.
it's a bonus, but I don't need a man who can emotionally soothe me because I understand coping mechanisms and I can soothe myself. Is it fun? No, of course I would love someone to be snuggling me while it was happening, but I can do it, right? And so if there's ever, I don't need a man to provide financially, yada, yada. So if there's ever a point in which I think a man is going to detract, if I know I can provide all positives for myself, I'm never going to agree to somebody who detracts in any category.
Right. And I think that with that being said, you have to be a little careful because in all relationships, there's going to be some negativity.
Sure.
There's going to be some.
There's always areas of
things
improvement
that you don't like about the
Sure.
person. I'm not looking for perfect. I think that is ridiculous. So I agree with you on that. I do think that it's hard sometimes. When women are kind of more independent and they give off that like independent mindset, that men think that you're intimidating or you're not approachable or.
But are those the men you want?
They're not. But at the same time, it's like that kind of shows like their insecurity, and it's a shame, right? Because those men might have a lot to give. And I've dated men of the same age that. Sorry, this cat makes me nervous. I've dated men of the same age that, one like really like loved seeking my advice on like relationships and things, but he didn't value like what I brought to the table, and that showed immaturity and insecurity to me. Whereas the other one lifts me up in so many ways and supports what I'm doing with my career and my hobbies, and literally is one of my very best friends. But some of our like big things don't line up, like wanting kids or our religious beliefs. And those are things that you have to really take into consideration at the end of the day. And it sucks, right? Because I think it would be amazing if it all worked out so perfectly. And I think you come to a point in your life where you're like,
you have to prioritize.
You prioritize. And it's like, I know that this is great, but we don't line up on like some of the bigger things. And at the end of the day, that's going to take away, because I've experienced that in a different way when it wasn't even as big as like wanting kids or religious beliefs and things like that. I experienced that even being married, where we didn't align with even like respecting each other. And
well, I think, hold on. I think you're conflating a couple of things, because there's a respect thing. And I think you've experienced not aligning on very serious topics. I think with respect, in my opinion, even if you don't align, you can have a healthy relationship if you want to, if the other pieces are there, right? And I think, in my opinion, like meeting on money, religion, politics, what I'm not saying they're superficial, but meeting in those ways is not as important in my 30s as it was in my 20s if there's respect, emotional intelligence, communication, that, right?
Yes.
Whereas in my 20s, I would have prioritized those things alongside money, physical attractiveness, sexual chemistry, all of these things. Then in retrospect, it's part of, not to draw it back to Love is Blind, but it's part of why I understand the premise behind Love is Blind, because your heart speaks in kind of a different language from all these check boxes and societal things that we identify as.
Right.
I might identify as someone who voted Democrat, but it doesn't mean I can't respect people who voted other ways and respect where they came from, why they got to the viewpoints they got to. It doesn't mean I couldn't marry them. It doesn't mean I couldn't raise a family with them. It just means a lot of it's nature versus nurture, right? Like I was raised in a different atmosphere or whatnot. And I guess what I'm getting at is that for me, I've seen a lot of check boxes go out the window the older I've gotten. and a lot of almost new ones appear that are a lot more gray. It's not just like, is he a Democrat or a Republican? It's like, where's his mind at? Where does his heart lie? How does he talk to me?
How do we talk through the tougher subjects that we disagree on? And
what language does he use? How does he approach them?
Correct.
That's fucking gray. That's not like we're writing someone off one way or the other. And also, the older I get, the more I approach friendships in that manner. I'm not writing people off because, oh, she's not from the same like South upbringing as me. Oh, she's not the same religion as me. Like I have friends who are Jewish, Persian, what have you. And I'm not writing them off because we don't have the same belief system faith-wise.
Oh, 100%. And I agree with you on that. And like even in my personal thing, it's not, and the experience that I've had, it's not because I am religious. It's not so much that they're completely atheist. It's more like, can you respect my values? That if I want to like go to church, would you go with me? And I think that becomes like a very open, not so much in that subject, but I think that's like a broad way of looking at it. Whenever you look for a partner, or if I'm looking for a partner, like that would mean a lot to me, right? Like if he could respect my values and we could still kind of grow together. The only thing for me personally that I would worry about is if we were to have kids, like how do you raise kids in that standpoint? So you do have to think about those things. And
of course,
that always kind of stuck to the forefront of my mind in that type of situation. I think it would cause a lot of difficulty, not for everybody, but maybe for me personally. But again, that's like a growing thing that I kind of had to figure out.
Do you think that, because you've touched on it a little bit, and I know we've had conversations about it, do you think that part of the reason that you're single now is because you are so independent, because you are so confident in who you are, and you're not gonna get in a relationship just to get in one, right? Like you don't need a boyfriend. You've had a husband, had a full ass husband, right? Like we know what that looks like. It's not like you need to wear the pretty dress. You know how some girls get
that was
right. And it's like, but also like some girls are almost doing it for the dress and the ring. And I don't think that they realized they were doing it at that time. I give that, like, if I had the opportunity, trust me, I probably would have been there too. Like, I am not disparaging that. But do you think that because you had that, now it's like changed the way you approach marriage?
Oh, 1,000,000,000%. Like, I still hope to have a family, but it is so much more important to me after the experience that I've had to find the right partner than to have a baby. And not everybody feels that way, and I respect that.
Sure.
But yeah, so when I date and I meet, sometimes I'm not even gonna say men. When I meet guys,
boys,
I've dated some from men. There's just a difference, and that of men that understand what I'm talking about. It's like when I meet these guys and like the things that they get worked up over, or the things that they're talking about, I'm like, you have no idea like what this entails. No. And I am not saying that I have it all figured out at all. Like but
you have experience under your belt.
Yeah. So I like understand that it's so much more than just a hot body. Yeah. A great fuck.
Which, to be fair, you have a hot body,
like,
but
right. But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just so much more than that. And I think that that's the priority of mine now, is finding someone that, like, I didn't have a friendship in my marriage. I had more of the physical aspect. And then, like, it was just kind of super, it wasn't very deep, if I'm really being honest, looking back. I want the best friend in my marriage. Yeah. I want.
What does that look like? What do you mean by best friend?
Sex.
Sure. What does that mean when you say best friend, though? Because, like, me and you are really good friends, right? So define best friend in terms of like a guy you'd be married to. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
I think it's someone that you can be like 100% yourself with, and they love you for you. Like, they have seen the worst sides of you, and they still think you're just as great as they were when they met you, right? They might get annoyed with you, but you're going to get annoyed with anybody that you're with 100 forever. And I think it's like being able to actually have a conversation. Like you can go to the bar and it's not about getting drunk to like go home together.
Sure.
It's more about just shooting the shit.
About
Like,
whatever.
we can laugh and joke and go listen to things that, I mean, to me, it's music. So go to concerts and shows and have a great time together. Or we can go drink martinis, or we can go drink beers, Coors Light at a dive bar. Like being able to just hang out with one another and it be like you're hanging out with your friend first. I think that's so important to me. And like just having a nice time. It might not be rainbows and butterflies all the time, but like it's fun. Like I want like fun, like happiness and not stress of, oh, why did you say that to me? Oh, don't wear that. Ooh, don't wear that. You don't look great. Like none of that bullshit. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm playing devil's advocate, but we're friends. We've gotten in tiffs about stupid things. They're gonna happen.
Yeah.
Where, I guess, what importance do you play on communicating and confrontation and letting things go? And do you think that's shifted during, like, when you were in a marriage to now? Do you let more things go? Are you more strong in your opinions? Like, how has your perspective on that shifted? Because I would say for me, the longer I was single, the stronger my thoughts and opinions became.
Right, that's normal.
Yeah, because you like
you're in stuck in your way.
Right. And so like part of me thinks now finding a best friend or someone that I would have that relationship to, there would be bickering that I wouldn't have expected in like a relationship in my 20s. But now it's like kind of second nature to bicker about stupid shit. That being said, I let things go a lot quicker than I used to in my 20s because it doesn't matter. I know it doesn't matter. Like, what are your thoughts?
I think that's kind of the key. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm a little weird about like appearance because I do think that like how you show up with your partner is a representation of you.
Sure.
And that's probably just a little bit of me growing up in the South. Like, if I'm gonna go on a date with you and it's like we're going to like an office party, like I'm going to show up
Sure
as your date representing you.
Sure.
And I would expect the same in return.
Sure.
So I am a little weird about stuff like that. And I think that was used to kind of always get in the way sometimes.
Did you communicate that with your husband or ex-husband?
Yeah, like I think if you're going to a nice restaurant, you shouldn't be wearing a trucker hat. Let's just put it like that. You know, there's a time and a place for a trucker hat. It's not if you're going to go drink martinis. You know.
Did he understand that, or was he able to have conversations with you about it?
No, but that's just because our communication wasn't great.
Yeah.
Right? Like we didn't have the best communication, and
was that would you attribute that to age or experience or just different, like what was important to the two of you? Like, how would you?
I think it was probably a little bit if we were, I know I can't speak for him. I think maybe now with his mindset, it might be a little different, but at the time it might have been how we were raised.
Yeah.
Things were not that big of a deal in his family, whereas
Sure.
I was raised a little bit more to be like, you need to present yourself.
Present yourself right.
Not saying my family was right or
no.
his family was wrong.
It's just your past and your experiences.
But I do think that made it tougher. He was a little bit more from the country.
Sure.
I was a little bit more from the city, technically.
Sure.
And I think that did make it difficult. But I also look at it as a respect thing. And it's like if you tell him something's important to you,
even if he doesn't understand, even if he doesn't get it, right. Okay, I'm going to shift topics a little bit. Also talking about Love is Blind. What are your thoughts on prenups?
So I used to be so against prenups.
Until you understood what they were? Says the lawyer.
My first fiance was a doctor, and he mentioned a prenup one time, and we got in the biggest fight. And I was like, I will never do a prenup, right?
Right.
After being married, bring on the
prenup. Well, so I think the one biggest misconception, the misconception people have about prenups, and I could fucking yell this from the rooftops, is that if you don't have a prenup, there already is one. It's just decided by the laws of the state that you got married in. Like, there's a prenup in place, right? However, your divorce ends, whether your state's at fault or not at fault, there's rules based on that. And there's rules based on the division of property. And the only way to counter those rules is to have a prenup. So the only time in which I wouldn't get a prenup is if I was marrying a billionaire. And then guess what? He's going to want one. So I'm still getting a prenup.
Yeah, I mean, like, luckily at the time when I had to experience all that, we really didn't have a lot to have to worry about. But, like, he could have gotten my retirement. And,
yeah.
Like, women
you
don't
could have
know
gotten
that.
his debt.
Like, that's scary to think that you've worked so hard,
Yeah.
and then someone can just take your retirement from you that you've accrued. And
That you don't know.
I did not know that until
Yeah.
I went through a divorce. And one of the biggest mistakes I ever made is I didn't put my name on the house that we owned. So when I left,
you didn't
I got
know.
nothing.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And he got everything.
Everything.
And, you know,
and you didn't even know otherwise
I
because
didn't
no
know
one told us.
otherwise. And
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that because it makes you sound like, oh, well, next time, you know.
Right.
But, like, it teaches you things.
A
and
lesson,
you realize
yeah.
what the law brings. And also, like, I was the breadwinner. Like, if things had been different or we would have had kids, I would have had to pay him
alimony. Yeah.
And, like, what the fuck? You didn't have a job for 2
Literally,
years.
you were supporting him.
I have to pay him more.
Right.
Like, no, thank you.
Well, and the other thing that people don't realize is that it also applies to, say, for example, he got in a work injury while you guys were married and he was disabled, or he had to have a surgery while you guys were married because he got hurt. And suddenly you guys have $200,000 in hospital debt that if you're married and paying it off over the course of the next 40 years, not a big deal. You get divorced and he got that injury while you guys were married in a job where he was providing for the family, and now you've accumulated $100,000 in hospital debt for his injury. Like, people don't realize all of these little intricacies. And the other thing that they don't realize is that, like, I'm saying this as though that's fact. Every state has a different family law and they're not similar. There are things in Alabama that are legal that would not even fucking reach the courthouse in California.
Yeah, like, I had to be separated a full year before we could even get divorced.
Virginia.
State of South
Yep. California is not that way, right? In Virginia, you have to have like different residences. You have to prove that you like haven't really contacted each other, a whole bunch of stuff before they'll even process the divorce. And it's, if you have a prenup, my thought process on it is, if you never, it's like having car insurance. You're not going to be like, well, I'm not going to get in a wreck. I don't have car insurance. Like, none of us are sitting here planning to get in a wreck.
Right.
Like, I'm not sitting
to split up.
No, just because I have car insurance does not mean I'm going to go around recklessly driving, right? Because I still have to pay the deductible. There's still a lot of fucking pain in having a car wreck. The same as there's still a lot of fucking pain in going through divorce, but I'm still getting the insurance because what if someone hits me? What if he cheats on you? What if you were the perfect wife, perfect spouse, but he gets a drug addiction and cheats on you? Do you want to get fucked because of his choices that you didn't know he was going to make 10 years from now? No. The same way I don't want to get fucked by the guy who T-bones me. To me, it's like thinking about it logically, and people are so emotionally.
You get caught so much in their romance. And I think to answer your question from a little bit ago, that's what I've learned. And it's sad, right? Because I was the girl that dreamed about being married, being a wife, being all of that. It's going to make me cry.
It's okay. I love you.
But it's not that simple. And you have to protect yourself, and like, girls and guys.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not shitting on men here. Women can be just as vindictive and ugly and terrible. And
you can't romanticize a marriage.
You have to really get to know your person and respect them and value them. And they need to do that for you so that you can both provide the right communication and lifestyle that you want, because it's fucking hard and it's not a fairy tale all the time. And as much as it sucks to not have that, like, I'm not jaded, I still am a hopeless romantic, but I think I'm a little bit smarter these days. Does that make sense?
1000%. And I would also say, like, don't get married because you think you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Don't get married because we're told to. Don't get married
Because
to
your
be married.
timeline's running out.
No, this is a legal contract, a legal binding contract.
And it is. 5 years later, I still haven't changed all my name back.
I don't mean to laugh, but when we go to the airport every time, I'm just like, what last name are we under? Where are we?
It's hard, y'all. Like, it is hard. Like, you think it's just this, and this. Like, I'm still trying to get my maiden name back, like, after all these years. Like, I will say this, though. Like, I don't regret any of it.
Yeah. You wouldn't be who you were without it.
At that time in my life, he was what was right for me. He's not a bad person. We were just not great for each other. And I think we both probably learned a lot from each other. I know I did.
I think a lot of people are pushed to get married because they think they're supposed to, especially in your 20s, especially in the South. I think a lot of couples that I know are in those relationships because they felt like they were supposed to and they were pushed to. And I don't know them personally, but I wonder if they're really happy, if this is really where they were supposed to be. You know what I mean? If there were other options, if they would have married someone differently. I've had people that I went to high school with who were married for 10 years and now they've gotten a divorce and now they're dating women or whatnot. You know what I mean? And it was like, imagine if you'd come to that realization 10 years ago and hadn't had, I wish so much so, not just for the South, but just societally. Yeah. That we were all encouraged to be our authentic selves from 18 on.
And I mean, like, I'll be raw with you guys. It's hard, right? Like,
sure,
it's hard, especially with social media and things like that. Like, it's taken me a long time to really just be like 100% confident in myself and be like, this is who I am.
And the stage of life you're at, the choices you're making, all of it.
But I think, like, with time and experience, like, thank God, right? Because the next person that comes along, I'm going to be able to give them everything that I've always wanted someone to give me. And
you're going to know what you want.
I'm going to know what I want.
Yeah.
Like, how beautiful is that to think about? I think that's such like a positive way to look at it. I know, but like, it's true. Like, it sounds so cheesy, but like, I know what I want. Yeah. And I know what I bring to the table. Yeah. And
you're not looking for anything more than that. No. It's not like you're like, I make X and I want a billionaire. You're like, I make X and I want you to make X too. I'm emotionally intelligent and I want you to be emotionally intelligent too. I have a huge social network and I want you to have one too. And it's not that it all has to match up line by line, but when you've worked so hard to be this full-bodied, force of life with so much going for you, you're not just trying to like pick up the rat on the sidewalk, like. No, you're not.
Or you're not trying to be another notch on a belt.
No, you're like
really carry yourself to a higher standard, and you start to be very picky with who you invite into your life.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Yeah,
and all the haters out there or comments that are like, "Oh, you're washed up, you're this age or that age," like, maybe take a look at yourself in the mirror and ask what you bring to the table.
But also, like, are you settling? Are you in a relationship? Cool, you're in one, but it's not who you want to be in a relationship with. Or you're settling because you wanted the label of a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Right. Because you feel more secure
with that label.
Somebody right here.
Having a person.
That person isn't bringing out the best in you or doing the best for you. And also, think about like who you were in your 20s and who you are now. The person I was when I moved at 34 and the person I am now.
Vastly different.
And I think, yes, you can meet your person at a young age. And if you can grow together and accept the new people that you bring in, that's amazing. I think that that's what life's about. You're going to change. I'm going to change even more with my partner. I just want that partner and us to change together and embrace that change and support each other. And I think that's the mindset you have to have.
There's a difference to me between, so I think that this is like coming back to society having changed. When we were younger, our fathers, our mothers, they were in jobs or at companies for 10 plus years, and that was normal, right? Now you're at a company for 2, 3, 4 years max, and then you transition. That's also very normal. And I'm not disparaging people who stay at a company for 8, 9, 10 years. I think for some people, they're able to grow. For me, I've generally found that at a certain point, I hit kind of a wall, and my next growth is usually a new company, a new position, a new role, new task, new responsibilities, because then I'm forced to think in a different way, think problem solve in a different area. And a lot of our generation, part of the reason that they've moved from job to job has been for that, for the monetary benefit, yada, yada, right? And so I'm not disparaging the person who can get a job at 22 and work there till they retire. That's the dream. Like, don't get me wrong, that's the dream. You never have to apply again. You never have to rewrite your resume. People respect you. Yep. I think it's rarer and rarer. And I think not acknowledging that is not acknowledging where society is moving and the growth of society, right? So that's like kind of trying to keep society in a bubble and not acknowledging there's growth technologically, economically, internationally, etc. You have to kind of acknowledge that and realize that there are going to be very few jobs in which you can stay from 22 to 65. If you find one, great. I'm not shitting on it, but it's a lot more rare than in 1950.
It is.
And the same I would apply to marriage. You find a guy at 22 and you both grow and are able to really take on life and find yourselves, but also grow together. Fucking, you got the dream. But I don't know that that's as prevalent as it was.
Yeah. And I also feel like, as someone who always, I think marriage is beautiful. My parents have been married for 45 years. Like, I love that. But I also think that you can have different loves throughout your life.
I was about to go there.
I'm not one of those people anymore that's dead set on, like, this is going to be my forever person. I might get married again and we might last 20 years. And you know what?
That's
Maybe
okay.
I'll meet somebody else after that last 10 years. And I think that that's beautiful, because maybe they're going to teach me things about myself or bring different parts. And I'm okay with that.
Someone might be your person right now and you might outgrow them. They might outgrow you.
Yeah.
Your journeys might not grow together. They might grow apart, but you're both separately growing. And this idea that you shouldn't get married unless they're your forever person, or if you get married, it is your forever person, I personally think is an outdated viewpoint. I hope they're my forever person. Yeah. That's the dream, but I'm not going to stay married just to say I'm still married.
Yes, because nothing is worse. You might feel lonely, single. Nothing is worse. Listen when I say this, than having to be in a home with somebody and be married to them and feel more lonely. Yeah. Nothing is worse than that.
The loneliest I've ever felt was in a bad relationship. Yeah. End of story.
End of story.
On that note, I'm going to close this chapter out. And the next episode will be a little bit more happy.
And that's my life story.
We love Brett.